to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
Total protonic reversal.
Protonic reversal.
Protonic Reversal with your host, Conan Neutron. Broadcasting from a secret underground lair in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
A gigantic middle finger to everything that is rock about music, rock and roll, and corporate power.
The thing is, though, if you don't laugh, you're going to go on a killing spree with sharpened nails.
Confidence of a hero or a fool. I wasn't exactly certain which.
Could not be more professional.
It means something. It means something.
You know, that's my take on it. What's yours?
Protonic Reversal!
That's like a science thing, right?
Indeed it is. It is a science thing. It is a science place. It is a scientific fact that we're all up in your face. It is time once again for the one, the only, Protonic Reversal. Welcome to it, welcome to it, welcome to it. Tonight's special. Well, tonight if you're in jolly old England, it's still this afternoon in the bunker down here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. But got a friend from overseas, and it's easy to do these Sunday afternoon here. It's evening over across the pond, as they say. I'm be talking to Damien of the incredible St Pierre Snake Invasion, a.k.a. also bass player from mclusky. St Pierre Snake Invasion has an awesome new record that I'm super into. Was really into the last one as well. And just really excited to have him on. Talk about all that and so much more. So thanks for tuning in on this atypical time period for Protonic Reversal. It's always appreciated. Let me just do this pre-run here. Welcome to Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal. I am your host, Conan Neutron. I am a rock and roll lifer that has been touring and recording for 23 years. Most known for the band Conan Neutron, The Secret Friends. Music is a huge part of my life, and I use the format of this very long-running podcast, 9 years next week, to talk about music with musicians whose work I enjoy and respect, but who may not be household names. This is episode 330. If this is your first time listening to the show, archives that are available for free, no ads, no sponsors, no kidding, at protonicreversal.com. Always free. However, you want to support the show and get episodes sooner, $1 a month at patreon.com/protonicreversal will achieve that goal. And if you like the show, or even a single episode, please feel free to share, like, subscribe on your platform of choice, send it all around the internet, even leave a review. All that helps people discover the show, beat back the almighty algorithm, and it's just a darn nice thing to do. So there you go. Damien, it's great to see you, man. Welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Not as big of a break between records for this one.
I think so.
That first to second, there was like a pretty big break.
I think it's about the same.
Is it really? Okay, well, it's pandemic
about,
time though, brother.
Yeah. I think I did a written interview recently, and someone asked me if that was intentional. I was like, no.
Like, are you doing a Steely Dan? Is that what they were at?
It's just literally we have the worst luck in the world when it comes to putting records out. But there's a new one. That's nice.
You also have a new to me logo. That's just the purple TSPSI logo.
Yeah, it was. Well, there's been a lot of things kind of reevaluated over the last few years, and having a name like the St Pierre Snake Invasion, you find out pretty quickly that it really limits t-shirt design. Any type of design, it's ridiculous. You just can't get it looking nice on a t-shirt that fits for anyone to wear. So I was just like, you know what, just get rid of it. We're not going to change the name to TSPSI, but that be going forward the logo, just for the sake of making money from t-shirts.
I almost want to start a support group for bands with extremely long sentence-long band names. Because the struggle is real.
a support group and also start touring high schools and speaking to young aspiring musicians and kind of, showing them the right path, that, just go for one word, 5-6 letters. That's
max.
Max,
Yeah. And here, if you don't, you will be constantly arguing with people about flyers and, billboards. There's like, oh, it's so many words. Like, really? Like, you said more words than was in the sentence of the band name.
There's always space at the top. Just put it at the top.
Exactly. There you go. Hey, sorted. Yeah, exactly. It's sorted out.
Yeah.
Galore. At least the album title is brief.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Also, the first album, the St Pierre Snake Invasion, 100 Years a Day. It's just too much. It's too much. It's like a 1975 album or something.
Well, it's almost like, Charles Dickens. He was paid by the word.
Yeah.
And it's almost like it'd be great if you get into that business, but
just to get paid for it all would be a great business. I don't care what they pay me for, just to pay me for something. Yeah.
I get paid for my loquaciousness, apparently. Who knew? But it all comes out in the wash at the end, doesn't it?
But yeah.
This is a really cool record, man. I'm a big fan of the other ones, especially Caprice Enchanté, which was like 2019, if I remember right.
Yeah.
There's some kind of bold swings on this one. There's some. It's. I think if you enjoy the previous records, you'll be stoked. But there's some cool stuff. There's some kind of like Brainiac 6-finger satellite kind of like clink clank. There's a song that's ostensibly more or less piano driven. Yeah, it's such a cliche to be like, oh, it's artistic growth, but there does seem to be some artistic growth here. Was it?
I mean, yeah, the whole premise of the album was that, it's kind of it. I had written an entire album, and it was shit. So I got rid of it.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was shit. Like, it wasn't very. I had said after Caprice that this was probably going to be our last album, and so I was writing it with the minds of that this is the last one. So that the album I had written just didn't excite me enough. I was like, if I'm going out, I'm not going out like this. So, and that kind of the rewriting of the album, or the beginning of the rewriting of the album, kind of crossed timelines with me getting more responsibility in work. So I had to become a manager of a team of apprentices. So like 5 female apprentices, all between like 16 and 21. Right. And so there was a lot of thought about, right, I have to not only teach them how to do this job, but also to kind of set the culture and try and teach them things not only going to benefit them within their role, but outside of work as well. That just happened to be the time that my wife told me that she was pregnant with my son. So,
right.
So I kind of, the thought process then just turned to kind of, what example do I want to set to these people, and what
you're thinking of things differently. Yeah, you're approaching it from a different angle. Yeah,
exactly. And you start to think like, what are the things about myself that I like? What are the things about myself that I don't like? What things could I do more? And I'm not naturally a risk taker, and if I can avoid hard work, I will. So I was like, just this has to be a difficult album. It has to push me, creatively, and it has. It's been it's been tough. There's been some risks. I say risks because it's not like we're in danger of losing our enormous audience or anything, but there's still
sure, but
there's still risks for me looking like a dickhead by putting out terrible music.
Well, that's the thing with taking swings, right? Taking big swings is that there's always a chance you might not connect.
Yeah.
And I think that, it's amazing to me that what was the point where you have this whole other record and then you're like, this isn't good enough. Like how's that breaking? Because that's a huge decision. Like that's not like, not and a lot of people, maybe wouldn't have that level of self-awareness, just saying. So it's fascinating to me that like you would be that self-aware with it in a good way.
I had a lot of time, so it was during the lockdown, so I demoed all the songs and I was just listening to them in my headphones and take the dog for a walk for an hour, and I was just walking around listening to it, and there were the riffs, a few lyrics and melodies that I've come through to Galore, but overall it was just kind of, I don't know, I think I had made the mistake of, because I thought it was going to be the last album, it was quite melancholic.
Yeah, sure, okay, yeah.
So it was kind of like subdued and not very exciting, not very exciting at all. And I just thought, if this is the last one, like, you're not going out with a whimper. It has to be.
It has to bang. Yeah, it has to.
It has to be a bang, and it has to be brave. But then what happened was I kind of realized that arbitrary 3-album rule that I'd put in place was bullshit, and I was like, actually, there's some Galore to me feels like the beginning of
like a new era almost.
Yeah, like the beginning of a new version of St Pierre. It's not. I think Sanjay referred to it as like the prototype new St Pierre Snake Invasion, and I'd say that's about right. We've reached further afield than we've ever have done before, but there's more in there. We've got no idea. We don't know how to use synthesizers or samplers or anything like that.
Yeah,
but they're on this album, and we've just kind of half-assed it and done what we've had to do. Once we learn how to use all of those instruments, then we should be able to push it a bit further, which is our modus operandi from here on, I think.
Well, it doesn't sound like a band that's out of ideas. It sounds like it does sound like you're just getting to like this new set of tools, this new bigger box of crayons, if you will.
Yeah, for sure.
And it also, again, I think if there are people that are craving the, as we've characterized it, the dudes yelling style noise rock, that's still there. It's just that, like, there's like some kind of weird oblique hooks here too, and there's you're exploring some different territory. Like it's not genre traitorism or anything along those lines. Not like you're putting out a ska record or something along those lines. Like, what were they thinking?
I would have to finish the thing, wouldn't I? For everyone's sake.
That's what you just do. What is it? A seppuku with the ritual suicide? With that.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I'd be pouring the Kool-Aid into the water sources. Everyone's going with me. I suppose that technically means it's murder and not suicide. But
right, exactly. It turns into a whole different catastrophe.
Yeah, but, I might kind of misjudge that one, I suppose.
But no, I think that's. I was excited, like, to hear that because, two of the songs I liked best on the last record were kind of the more mellow ones, for lack of a better term. Well, one of them starts mellow and then it gets more raucous, right? But I was like, I remember when I was first listening to Caprice, I was like, and it was Idiot's Guide to Music, and I was like, this is still them, right? I checked real quick to make sure, because I was like, oh, this is like melodic. There's oh wow, this is good, and it had like a hummable hook to it and stuff, but it still sounded very much of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, it's good. I was going to just chat shit.
No, but like in that same way, like this one kind of comes in, like I suppose in Days of Yore you would call it more cyberpunk or something along those lines. But it still sounds it doesn't sound like you're doing like an 80s thing or something along those lines. It sounds like you're approaching things to make this really visceral, overutilized term, vital music that's very immediate. But you're using other things in there to kind of crash and clank around at the same time and not repeat yourself. Not make like, oh yeah, That sounds great. It sounds just like that other song on that other record they have, and like the Ramones thing, which is peace and love. I love the Ramones, but like,
yeah, exactly. I mean, and I guess I can't really speak for, as I often do, like if you're a musician, you should be this or whatever. That's not obviously it's what I want to get out of this, but I really do struggle to understand musicians like the Ramones who are like, okay, we're just going to do another album like that again. Money is probably the fucking.
I was gonna say, that's it. You're right. That's probably
but
driving concern.
That's it. This was. I feel like Caprice and Galore are kind of similar in the sense that they are. They're both within a frame. And there's lots of different things going on in that frame. There's just a different set of colors being used in Galore. There's it's still kind of Caprice is up and down, and there's lots of different dynamics and what have you. Galore is just that. It's that just with a little bit of added spice.
Yeah, and it's sort of it's paced differently in that same way, right? Like it's sort of like I feel like the with Caprice, like everything kind of led up to like that album would not have hit the same way for me if it was even sequenced differently. And that, I mean, I guess that's the case with a lot of records, but like Lonely Tourist at the end, is perfect because like it's got this kind of this build and then it just explodes and it's like, well, what do you do after that? Well, record's done. Okay.
Yeah. Tourist was always, I knew how that album started and ended and, and I'd said it to the guys in the band is that, when you hear that melodica at the end of Lonely Tourist and it's just on its own and it's kind of haunting and kind of it has that kind of pessimistic feel to it. When I listened to the album in the lead up to the release was thinking, fucking hell, how different is that to how the album starts? Like it's just
it's a totally different spot. Totally.
And a couple of people that I'd spoken to had said that, like, I kind of, when I got to the end of that, when I was listening to that bit, I was thinking about how different it was to the beginning of the album. And I wanted to listen to the beginning of the album again. Yeah. Which was ideal because that was how it was designed,
That's the dream, my man. That's if you're like, oh, you want to start the album over again? Great.
Then you thought of actually making sense. Who'd have thought? What a concept.
As opposed to, I mean, the other side of that, and I feel like this is very much a 90s trait, is this is great, when's it going to be over? Like records that just overstay their welcome. And we're...
have you heard how fucking long that Metallica album is?
Oh, my God.
Have you seen it?
It's not 1997. You don't have to fit up every available space in a CD, guys. You don't need to have this many changes in every song. Lars, you are not good at changes. Don't
like that's all of your fans have got fucking kids. They haven't got they have several kids. They haven't got time to sit down for an hour and 20 minutes. And listen to that album. Jesus Christ. I mean, it's just I've not listened to a note of it. I hazard a guess that it's shit.
Actually, from what I've heard. And take this with a grain of salt, and take this with the exact intent that I think is going to be implied. Best thing they've done in years.
Really? I mean, yeah.
There's a couple like, okay, cool. Am I going to put it on? Probably not, frankly. But like from a perspective of like, all right, yeah, that's it's no.
It sounded. I mean, I think I heard one of their singles, and it sounded kind of. I think the production on the guitars really suits Hetfield's playing. Yeah, but I felt like the drum. It was kind of, oh right, okay, you're just trying to sound like these modern bands. You have overproduced drums. And
that's what I didn't like about it. Yeah,
yeah, and it's like that's not for me, man. Thrash is supposed to be fucking horrible.
And I was just abjectly fascinated with the as my friend calls it, stanger, the drum sound on Saint Anger.
Oh,
Where it's just like, wait, you spent how many months and this is the sound you came up with?
I love it. I love it. It's just because whenever someone mentions, whenever someone talks about Saint Anger,
yeah,
I think about
some kind of monster.
Some kind of monster, and it's
so good.
Fucking just. I think it's one of the greatest films. I'm not just saying that. I actually think it's one of the best films ever made. It's so fucking funny. It's so funny. I love it. Absolutely love it.
It's like a real life Spinal Tap,
It is. It's wonderful. And I have seen it. Sorry, I've got my throat scars. If you get a few kind of prepubescent,
oh, sir, yeah.
If you get a few Scooby-Doos in there, I apologize. But I forgot what I was saying now. But
did some kind of monster is a masterpiece that is underrated?
Yeah,
kind of film.
I've seen some behind the scenes footage of it where they look at what's his name, the guy who put it together. I forget, but he shows them some footage of the first session, and they're pissing themselves laughing. So I kind of that they are in on the joke kind of makes it a little bit more kind of special to me, that they're not just
the butt of the joke. They understand the absurdity of like, okay, well, they can only work from these hours to this hours because James Hetfield's going to run around racing his like classic cars, and like, okay,
is this a pose? It is a pose. I suppose it is a pose. Like, you're fucking right, it's a pose, man.
And there's so many great quotes. Like, what is he's like, you gotta, give me something. Like, Lars's dad. If it was me, if it was my choice, I would say delete that.
Me and my friends and I, all the time. Even Falcon, like in the van with McCluskey, would constantly.
Yeah,
I would delete that. I would say delete that.
I would say delete that. And like Lars looks so crestfallen. And what I love about that is and the background is that like Lars had been like mainlining Sigur Rós, like listening to a lot of the band Sigur Rós, and like they recorded this, like yelling in the hallway kind of atmospheric stuff, and it's horribly indulgent and like useless. And Lars's dad, who looks like a wizard, let's establish this for people that haven't seen the film.
The king of the wizards, yeah.
And then he just says that line. I'm like, congratulations, that is now in the canon of anyone who records music ever. This is a classic moment, if nothing else.
It's just beautiful. Yeah, it's fucking beautiful.
So I think that, and again, I guess we could just have a Metallica podcast, and that would be excellent. I do appreciate that they don't have the Saint Anger drum sound. That they didn't stick with that. A couple of the songs seemed okay. I don't need that much Metallica in my life. That's new. Like I'm good with if I want to scratch that itch, I've got those records. But I get it. It's an industry. They have to put out records and tours, or like all these people are going to be out of job. So I get that piece of it.
And I do. To be fair, I do get a sense that they find making art important. They definitely do. Like some of we talk about Galore being a risk. Some of the risks that they've taken, whether people have liked them or not, they have taken some pretty enormous.
The Lou Reed record.
Yeah, exactly, and I, whether I think they're shit or not, whether I think they're a bunch of incredibly entitled, ridiculous human beings, I have like a shitload of respect for one wanting to do that when you're so comfortable.
Yeah.
Two, fucking piss off audience a lot.
Oh yeah, people were
20 years. Like it takes some fucking cojones to do that, and I'm all about it.
It makes all the outrage when they did the Black Album, look laughable compared to they're like, what is this? And then it's like, there's one song that sounds like a Metallica song with Grandpa Simpson kind of rambling over it, and it's like, all right, sure, but like. What did Megadeth do? Did Megadeth do something like that? No, of course not. Dave Mustaine couldn't possibly.
No. He's too macho for that shit, man.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So like we have to get out of this Metallica discourse. Sorry, I don't know how we got down this, but
although it's kind of it's tied in there, pushing yourselves and creative.
Well, but there's always that if you try something different, there are these like cautionary tales of people that tried something different and it didn't work. And it's you got to find the balance between following what's driving you and what you think is interesting and cool. And, obviously the stakes are less when you're not a huge band like Metallica, but there are people that engage with it. You want to make sure that there's something there for them. It's not, peace and love to all the people that say like they completely exist in a vacuum and never care about anybody's opinion. But I mean, that's a load of crap if you ask me.
Of course, of course.
And like I said, this is simultaneously very bold as a record. And trying new stuff, but keeps like a lot of the intensity that you guys are known for as it manifests in a different way. Like it does. It's the kind of thing where I think when you're a band that's not at a certain level, you have to have someone kind of prodding you to be like, hey, check it out. No, you should check it out. You should check it out. It's maybe not quite what you think it is. You may think you know what that sounds like, but I guarantee you don't. And that can be a double-edged sword.
Well, it is, yeah.
And that's one of the things where, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on this show. Although technically I've wanted to do that for years and I just never got around to it. But it's whatever. That's the thing.
First, now we had to be first person, I think, for it to happen.
Right. Yeah,
and
exactly.
I'm so glad we did.
But I think that so what were you thinking? Album-wise with this, and I think if you're into it, something that I've done with like especially records I think are interesting or new ones, I kind of gone through song by song on them, and you can tell like a little bit about each song.
Yeah.
Is that something you'd be down for doing?
I can do that. Yeah. I mean, if you want some rambling shit, let's do it.
My man, you've heard the show, right? So my brand identity.
I told my wife, I was like, don't wait up. I do not wait.
Yeah, it's going to be a while. Exactly.
She's like, how long are you going to be? I was like, fuck it, I don't know. How could I, I might have to call in sick tomorrow. But,
my man, I had Mike Moraski from Stillpole Bathtub on this last week, and we went for 2.5 hours, which is sort of like I usually around 2 I start calling it, but that was a part 2 of a part 1 that we started in May of 2020. So I was like, look, man, we got to get, let's just get it. And the nice thing is about it, especially in like podcast form, is you can just like listen to it, whatever, catch up to whenever you catch up to it. Oh, it's too long. Well, then just pause it and like listen to it later. What's wrong with you? Anyway, that's, thank you. So Galore, and if you want to like throw in, where the song title came from, lyrics, anything that comes to mind, there's no wrong answer for any of it. Let me actually do this. I'm trying to get used to doing the video element of it. Let's actually take advantage of this business. Here we go. Throw it up so you can kind of look ahead too. How about that? How about that fanciness?
I love that. Yeah, a link. What's sold out? What is
sold out? Yeah, live tonight. You should have a live tonight sold out on that.
Fucking hell, we sold out. Or something.
Sold out.
Jesus,
that's great.
Christ.
It's beautiful.
That's got to be a glitch.
So let's start off with Cracked Velvet. Cracked with a K, mind you. Cracked Velvet.
Well, okay. Let's go for Cracked Velvet. So, Cracked Velvet was a song which wasn't this song. So I had written one. It was based on Nightclubbing by Iggy Pop.
Yeah. Okay.
So I wanted to use that drum beat, and I had a riff, like a polyrhythmic riff, which was like a 6. So it was like a 6, 1, 2, whatever it was. Anyway, I'm shit with all of that stuff. But basically, I'd written this song, and it had that kind of Iggy Pop groove to it.
Right.
And it was great. The demo was fucking brilliant, and I loved it. And then it just didn't come over in the room as much as I wanted, and I was a bit concerned. So then I on the way back from rehearsal to my house, I think Sanjay was driving me, and I just I could rehear the riff in my head.
Yeah.
and just wrote the whole thing again in a night. This is about 2 weeks before the studio.
Oh wow,
And,
wow. Okay.
Yeah, 2 weeks before the studio. Made it 10 times harder to play as well. And yeah, the reason it's called Cracked Velvet. So the 3/4 beat is also in Black Velvet by Alana Miles.
Oh yeah, sure, okay.
So there was that, and then the K is because a lot of the album is influenced by the Night Versions album by Soulwax. I don't know if you know that one.
Oh sure. Okay, yeah.
Where they do their kind of like DJ. It's like a live dance version of their indie songs. And they have a song called Crack. So I was like, okay, well, we'll just call it Cracked Velvet. And
it's also evocative because you don't think of velvet as a thing that normally cracks, right?
Exactly,
like, so
yeah. It's essentially nonsense is what it is. But the middle riff of Cracked Velvet, where I start crooning a little bit, is the same rhythm. It's basically essentially one of the same riff as the outro riff of the first Cracked Velvet. So I thought, no, we'll just keep the name because I like it, and I'm toying with the idea of re-recording the old one and calling it Cracked Velvet 2, potentially. Yeah, but
the Deuce.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, what is Cracked Velvet about? So I think I did an interview recently where I said it's like an apology, a confession, an apology, a kind of a love letter to my family, and a kind of an example to my son. So, and like, I won't go into details, but like the confession and apology part is just essentially me realizing that I have quite recently as well, been a bit of an arrogant prick and a bit of an entitled prick. And I think when Magnus was coming around, I thought, well, what are the things I don't want to pass on to him? And that was one big element of it. Like, just get out of your own way. And then, so there's stuff that touches on that. It touches about me dabbling in excess a little bit, excessively at times, and then it feels like the beginning. It's just sets the tone of the album, which is this is the person that I've been, and this is the person that I am, and this is the person who I want to be. And then beyond that, these are the examples I want to set for my son, so that to shape who he's going to be as well, which is, I know, really fucking deep and perhaps a bit pretentious, but that's the thought process behind it. I'm not gonna...
it makes sense because you're in a much different place life-wise than you were before, and those are going to be things that factor in. I mean, I think that, honestly, I think some people should put more thought into their stuff, frankly, if you ask me. It's not paralytically so. Like, it's just thoughtful, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with being thoughtful.
Yeah. It's, part of it is, like I said, there's a lot of stuff on this record about, like, the negative side of me, but, there's a lot of it as well. It's weighted out with stuff that I do like about myself, or stuff that I'm learning to accept about myself, which is that I am like massively sentimental, like hugely sentimental person, and like unbearably emotional at times, as my friends will attest. And I'm happy with that. I like that, and I do think about stuff like this quite deeply and intensely a lot, and that is kind of who I am. So I'm, this is me not shying away from that as much as I have in the past, where I've been putting up this, facade of like this blustering macho dickhead. It's full of arrogance.
Because that's the emotion that's okay to have when you're a guy, right? Especially if you're in like this genre of music, whatever the hell that might mean, is that like, oh yeah, being like ferocious and angry is cool, but any other emotion is maybe not so cool.
Yeah, and there's that, and then there's also there's a little bit, I think, of self-pity as well, like when people touch upon stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's either we're either really fucking angry or that it's really kind of pathetic self-pity, and this isn't any of that. It's just kind of self-reflection. It's almost like a document of a self-reflection, and there's no kind of woe is me. It's just, this is what I am, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I need to do, this is what I want to happen. So it's it's definitely, I think, to summarize, it's maturing, isn't it? That's what it's, I think I'm nearly 40 now. So.
It's allowed. Yeah.
So yeah, it's about time, I should imagine.
Tell me about Midas.
So Midas was called Midas is called Midas because the song was originally called Gold, but I could not live with the fact that the running order would go K, G, S, G, and Sleep Well was initially called S. Was usually it was.
You're talking about the first letter of the song titles. You're talking.
I'm again. Welcome to the madness. I could live with the fact that to sleep well is called To Sleep Well.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't live with the album going K, G, S, G, S. So I changed it.
Fair enough.
I changed Gold to Midas, and I changed Sleep Well to Sleep Well.
Sure.
So because there were too many G's and too many S's at the beginning of the song titles. Yeah.
All right.
And it's just about not playing music during lockdown, and realizing how I've always known music is important to me. It's always been important to me, but quite how much I missed being in a room with the guys making music and going out and meeting people. It kind of really drilled it home that actually this kind of is a big part, it's a big reason why I'm still alive, because it's one of the few things that actually makes me happy, like genuinely happy. So,
and that's something that I think a lot of people, maybe myself included, took for granted when it wasn't happening. Of just that the social element of, as well as the artistic release of, just the dealing with the mundane miseries of the world and having that outlet.
Yeah, it allows you to self-actualize, because when when I'm in the office, I'm Damien, the office manager, which is fine. We'll touch on that in a bit, but which is absolutely fine. But the teenage boy who will not die inside me is like, you're Damien the frontman, you're Damien the bassist, you're Damien the songwriter, and without that outlet, I think I'd be as would most people who feel exactly the same as I do, would kind of, life would be a little less happier, it would be a little less rich.
Yeah, and all that matters. So okay, so that's Midas then. Yeah. Anything else with other than it being once called Gold?
No, I think that's it. It's a very simple song. I mean, it was musically, it was meant to go on a solo album initially, but
really?
I started writing this dance album type thing, and I sent it to the boys, and they were like, I think this might actually fit. And then I went back and forth, and then Zach, our guitarist, was like, no, it has to go on the album.
Nice.
But and we put it second just because after you've got Crack Velvet, and this is something different, and you've got the line Find Your Form and then Take a Knife to It. It was like, well, this is what we're doing. Like we're fucking cutting up that painting, restarting again. So that was kind of the perfect one to kind of show that what you're expecting is not this.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And that's a statement of intent, I usually call it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Some mechanico. Or
Some
mechano.
mechanical. That's what it's fucking going to be called from now on.
Sorry.
No, it's great. For what it's worth,
there used to be a band called Mechanico that I knew, and I did that. Unfortunately, that was like some deep part of my subconscious sabotaging my reading skills.
No, don't you worry about it. Like the whole time, this was getting the name of this song in the studio.
Yeah,
the file was Submachino because our producer thought it was like using Submachino, you know.
Right.
So yeah, don't worry about it. But what's Sub Meccano about? Sub Meccano is about we touched on it earlier about me not being really one for taking risks or in doing anything that might be considered stressful or that I find stressful. I don't handle stress very well. I certainly previously haven't. I haven't handled change very well, out in and outside of work, mostly work. And so Meccano was just kind of my wanting to take on as much as I possibly can over the period of writing this album to releasing it, to find out what I'm capable of taking, like where's my limit for stress.
Yeah.
And with the aim that I would learn some coping skills and new skills in general. And I was doing that whilst kind of still in lockdown. So it was kind of like this, I was adapting to that environmental change as well. And Sub Meccano is it's a metaphor for that. So it's based in a fucking submarine that sinks to the bottom of the ocean. And the people on board just kind of adapt using like the bioluminescence that live down there.
Yeah.
They kind of create these fields of crops and what have you, rather than dying. They're still under immense pressure, which is a really lazy metaphor. Forgive me, but there. So it's just that it's about adapting to change through stressful environment. It's called Sub Meccano because there's a fear, the fear of sunken ships, or is it of sunken or half sunken man-made objects is called submechanophobia. And
really,
that's
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but it's a fucking terrible name for a song, Conan. So. A terrible name. Unless you're in Muse, which I am not.
Right.
So, yeah, like Muse would 100% have a song called Submechanophobia. There's no doubt about it. But so I just cut it off. I was like Submechano.
Yeah.
But Submechano, it's sung like the Latin. I'm sure if you know Latin, it probably is just sunken ships. So fuck it. I just did that.
On a previous episode, I had Aaron Beam from Red Fang on, and great guy, great band, and he was talking about how everything that Brian Giles, who also played the amazing Last the Juanitas, this criminally underrated band, but like a much more academic and bizarre, from a pop perspective, sort of band. So what they would do is that Brian would come up with some like really cool riff, but super complicated. He was like, cool, let's only do like the first 3/4 of that and then drop that bit at the end. And that was like the Red Fang thing, which has worked to great success for them, by the way.
Yeah.
But you're doing that with the song title, and I appreciate that. It's like, that's, are you a prog band? Yeah, then you don't need to have that song title be that.
You don't need the word phobia if you're a musician. The word phobia should just not. It's just not. A word should be in.
It's not
a song or a title. It shouldn't be a title. It shouldn't be in a song. I don't think.
It's you're not doing anybody any favors. Let's put it that way.
No, it's like bread. like bread is just, it's not a word. I know fucking Falco's got a song called Bread, Cheese, Bow and Arrow, hasn't he? But unless you're Falco, in where, and then you can put whatever fucking ridiculous words.
Yeah, he gets a certain dispensation that is it's earned.
He does, yeah. But like bread, bread is a difficult word. Pie as well, I think is there a word for like fear of bread? Is that a thing? There will be. For sure.
My god, artophobia, the fear of bread. Can you imagine? Like, I don't mean to make light of people's troubles, but can you imagine that that's something you're saddled with? Wow.
I'm pretty sure. I'm doing that thing now where I've either seen this on a television program,
sure,
or it's real. I've experienced it in real life. But I'm pretty sure I worked with a girl who was afraid of bananas. I'm pretty certain I did. Like, she's absolutely couldn't be in the same room as him.
I mean, like, I guess I shouldn't laugh. I suppose that's somewhat insensitive of me, but good lord, what a cross to bear.
I know. How does that happen to a person?
I have so many questions, and none of them have to do with your record.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, like, you get attacked by a dog when you're a child. You're afraid of dogs for the rest of your life. How the fuck are you getting attacked by a banana?
Yeah.
What is the... I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. We could go... I can get cancelled going here, so let's see.
Yeah, let's skip that and move on to the title track. Mm-hmm. So, Galore. Title track, those are... you're saying something with the title track, and what you're saying is that the album and the song title are the same thing.
That's exactly what you're saying. No flies on you, Conan. No flies on you.
I'm a quick study.
Yeah. Good job done. Galore. It's, you know what? It's kind of... I knew I wanted it to be a one-word album or title.
It's a great word.
Yeah. It's a lovely word. And do you know what? It's something where I moved I moved around Wales a lot when I was I say a lot, 2 or 3 times. And I moved to a place called Saundersfoot in West Wales when I was about 17. And the first people I kind of befriended there were some girls that I worked in a restaurant with. And they would always say, like, I love you, Galore. And that just, in the end, they just wouldn't put the love you in. They would just say Galore. They'd go, hey, Carrie, Galore. I thought that.
Yeah.
And I thought about that. It was really beautiful. And the song is about, it's basically a really shit metaphor for growing my son. It's about my son being, a plant or a flower or a tree or something that needs space and light and water and all this kind of stuff. And it's a weird one with this. The lyrics aren't that, even though they are about that, they're not that important to it. I kind of wanted this one to be more of a sensory thing, if that makes sense. It was written so that the feel of the song kind of portrayed how I was feeling. So it's meant to sound kind of beautiful because it's about my son and how much I love him. And there's a little one of the lines in there is something that my wife said to me, because she's a mental health nurse, a senior mental health practitioner. So she works with like extremely troubled people who, very often are wanting to take their own life. And she said something very beautiful, which was how she kind of holds their hope for them. Her job is to hold their hope until they're ready to take it back from her and go back out. And I just thought there was something kind of something really beautiful about that.
Yeah, that's lovely.
When I told her that I put that in the song, she was like, that's not, I said, I've used something you've said. I will hold your hope until you're good to shine. And she's like, that's not how I said it.
Let the record show. Yeah,
but it's just like, for fuck's sake, man, I've just done something that I think is really nice, and you're just having a go, because I was like, what you said didn't scan. I'm afraid. I'm just sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's it. Yeah, it's just basically, I just wanted to create a really nice song for my son, and kind of, I think you touched on it earlier about there's the heaviness in this album.
Yeah.
I think the heaviness, the difference between the heavy points of this album and the last album is that those heavy parts were on Caprice were meant to portray like frustration and a bit of aggression, I guess. Whereas these, I wanted that the heavy bits, they're kind of more celebratory, I guess. You know, they're supposed to be kind of triumphant.
Yeah, it's serving a different purpose, right?
Yeah.
It's the utility shifts with context.
Yeah.
Whereas it could be something entirely different, with just like a few steps to the right or steps to the left, so to speak, in the proverbial sense. So, originally Sleep Well, now To Sleep Well.
Yeah, and it's,
which, by the way, sounds great. By the way, because I have not been sleeping well.
Wow, and it's so important.
Sounds lovely.
Right?
Yeah, I know. The more time it goes on, the more when I don't get it, I'm like, I feel like I'm like a quarter of what I could be right now.
Yeah, exactly. It's a so I've just been terrible at sleeping my entire life because I've got poor sleep hygiene, and because I've always put not always, but you know, the majority of my adult life I've put excess above sleeping
right
in hierarchy. So Sleep Well is just about that. It's about kind of letting go of that that want or need to kind of go into it excess to a point where it's, you know, taking priorities over other things, and primarily because I was doing that because I wasn't happy, and I was you know, running away from things. So, you know, that's what you know, staying up till 7, 8 in the morning affords you. It affords you the ability to not have to face up to things that you know, you don't have to face up to things that you're not prepared to kind of look at yet or address, and that, you know, can be detrimental to a lot of things. As it was. So, and this is kind of just a statement of like, well, I'm not that anymore, but I'm still a comet in the sky, even though if I'm not, you know, beholden to the night anymore.
Yeah, and that's you know, at times that when you go to sleep, you're there with yourself, right? Like, even if you're with someone, it's you're there with yourself, and if you're at war with yourself, as you know, people can be for various reasons, or so I hear. So I hear anyway. Then you know, that all factors in. Yeah, it's. I think To Sleep Well. I think that's a good change. Not that you asked me, but I think that's a good change because.
Thank you. No, appreciate it.
Sleep Well implies like somebody saying, you know, giving that, you know, direction, helpful direction, or hope for someone else. Yeah, sleep well, you know, you say that. And then like To Sleep Well is like, oh no, this is about the process of it. Yeah. And exactly. And no, actually, no, I can't, Conan, you're absolutely right. It does do that. But that's not why it was changed. It was accidentally brilliant.
There was too many fucking S's at the beginning.
You couldn't possibly claim that. You can do the thing that, like that. You know, it's always is great. Great to see when somebody says something brilliant in an interview and you're like, oh yes, absolutely, that's assuredly what I meant. Yeah, it was like, you mentioned you didn't like the letters, like the syllabants of the
that's
letters.
Pretty
together,
much
right?
it. So. I messaged to them, and they're like, "Are you fucking mad?" I was like, "Yeah, I think I am, but I cannot live with that." So,
but you know, there's you know, there's certain things that certain people just can't abide. and it doesn't need to be explained necessarily. It just needs to be honored.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Tony, for instance, despises any video by a band where the band doesn't at least briefly appear in it. Like it's a thing. It's a thing he hates.
Really, I'm quite the opposite.
And yeah, exactly. I'm like, I'm not in it. Fantastic. You don't have to look at my stupid ass face. Wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. I'm totally of that school. Like that, whatever. Just, and for a plethora of reasons, but one being like, I'm just so bored of seeing people as a musician, all I ever see is people fucking playing instruments.
Right. Oh, you're playing the guitar at the camera? Great.
Exactly. Yeah.
Fantastic.
That'll be a good shot. It's like when you have a shot down the guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have literally just put a video out like that.
I was gonna say, did you just do that? Yeah.
We have, yeah. I got a budget.
Yeah, you're proving your own point, though, right? I mean,
we've done that as like a,
yeah.
It's a performance video, but the majority of it is like we're like, we're dressed like twats to begin with, but it's supposed to be kind of like big bandy, but yeah, and that's why bands do it, I suppose, because it's cheap, and it's I actually did try and come up with a narrative for one of the one of the singles, and it's fucking so hard.
And it's especially hard to do something that hasn't been done lots before. And then it's even doubly harder if you have to communicate that as an outsider to the band. It's just like, I'm more of I do it very rarely. I did a video for Joe's band for Resurrectionists, and it was like, look, none of this is going to make sense right now, and it'll make sense when it's over. Are you good with that? Yes. Okay, learn all your songs at 2x speed or learn this song at 2x speed and half speed. It's going to seem absurd. You don't need to get everything exactly right. There's going to be lots of lights and things are going to be thrown at you. Okay, great. And then it comes across as this great colors, dreamy color sequencing thing. But I was like, I can't really explain what I'm going to do. But it'll look cool and it will not look anything like any of the rest of the videos. And that was my goal. And that's one of the reasons why I kind of got out of the game, because I did it for money for a while, which really killed my love of it. And then I was like, everybody can do this now and everybody's good at it. And like, what can I add to this? I do plenty. I do enough. I don't need to do that.
Do enough. And I think you're right, Keenan's, it's exciting to be able to do it. And like, I loved putting that video together that we've done.
It's great.
We've done it. Like, it's so much fun editing it and all that and learning about lighting and what have you. But then to do it full time, and not only that, to do it for someone else, where someone else is then telling me whether or not it's good enough. I'm not.
Yep. Or even worse, if they have notes where it's like, okay, all right, what do you want? Okay, all the things that are cool you want me to take out? Got it. I'm on it.
Yeah. Can we just have more of the guy running for no?
Exactly.
We just have the guy or the woman. So the guy running, and then the
fade to black.
The classically attractive woman sat somewhere. Like, just repeat that over and over again. Hot woman, guy running. Hot woman, guy running.
It's respect to people that not only can do it, but do it well and do it consistently. Because I think at the level of, not just y'all and but like the bands that are usually on this show, it's a labor of love. Even if you're getting paid for it, it's a labor. The labor is love. Like, it's you have to really love doing it, or you won't stick with it at all.
No, for sure.
Anyway, that's a digression and a half.
Right.
Every Sun, which you've heard the show, you know what it is. Every Sun is the next song.
Every Sun is
SUN for audio listeners.
Yeah, but also kind of, it's an album about my son, but so
it's one of the reasons why I wanted to clarify. I mean, whatever.
Yeah, it's double entendre.
Very clever.
But yeah, it's just that's based on a conversation I had with my guitarist when he had his kids first, and I was talking about, I don't know if I want to be a dad and what have you, and he was saying that, you know, when your kids are born, you automatically start thinking about your own mortality a little bit more, and you'll start thinking about what their life's going to be like when you're not around, and his job is there to make sure that they're ready for that change.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what it's about. It's just kind of, like loving him, being aware that I'm going to die and that I've got to do what I can to make sure that he's not a total prick like his dad.
Right, especially. Well, and that's, you know, I hate to say it, it's kind of all the more important when you have a male child. You know.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Absolutely. I ordered a girl as well. Which is not very nice for him if he ever hears this. Like, you know, I kind of thought I wanted a girl more than a boy, and then he was born, and obviously as soon as you see him, you're like, of course I wanted a son.
Of course, yeah.
Yes, I wanted a big ginger son. That's what I wanted. I just didn't know it. Right. And then my sister had a girl. My best mate had a girl. Loads of people I know have had girls, and they've been a nightmare. And Magnus has been relatively fine. So,
I think it's just. I mean, this is my grand epiphany. I think it's just a different set of challenges. You know what I mean? It's like it's not. It's a shame that in our society, without intervention, it's a greater likelihood than not that a young boy will be turn out to be a fuckhead. You know,
well, absolutely. I mean,
there's no other nice way to put that, basically. But yeah, it's, you know.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. We know this is the truth because we fucking know these fuckheads, you know, and we have to, you know, to an extent which it, you know, doesn't have the same fucking repercussions. We have to circumnavigate those twats as well.
Exactly.
But yeah. No, I do think about that a lot, about how, I don't know, about how he's going to be. But
well, it's good that you're thinking about it. It's more than some people do. How about the Overlook? You think about that one?
The Overlook is, I think about, just about fucking shying almost. It's about being in lockdown and starting this album. And then kind of, I'd gone down a Kubrick rabbit hole at the time as well. So I kind of like, I was watching like, you know, fucking what they call video essays on him. And I started to realize like there were parallels between what was happening to me at home and Jack Torrance in the Overlook, which was, you know, he's in isolation. Yeah. He's with his family. He's starting a new creative endeavor, and he's going a little bit fucking mad, you know, but not wanting to kill. I did not want to kill.
All work and no play makes Damien a dull boy.
Yeah, exactly. And so I.
By the way, I just reference it because everybody knows it, but like, if you watch the film like as a film and not like in bits and pieces on like cable or on the internet or whatever, like what a shocking thing you're like, oh, he's been writing that the whole time. All right, so he's around the bend then.
Yeah, he's completely gone. Yeah,
fair enough.
And it's brilliant. I just love it. Like I was more so. I love all of the theories behind it. Probably more so than the film.
Have you seen that film, Room, whatever it's called? Yeah.
Is it Room 187 or something?
Yeah.
Incredible.
We watched that and like some of them are like, all right, cool, and some of them are like, say what? Like what are you what? Like I can't. Oh, Room 237 is what's called the 2012 documentary. One of them was like, it's like, you know, like, oh yeah, that's reasonable, and then it's just like, I'm sorry. Where did you take that left turn?
Exactly. You know, that's it. The one where it's like, you know, this is about the genocide of the native people.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely. I get that. I totally
yeah.
get that.
You're
And
like-
then when it's like, oh, this is Stanley Kubrick admitting that he directed the faked footage of the moon landing. It's like, mate, stop smoking weed. Stop fucking smoking weed.
Yeah, I mean, like, oh, there's the one where like they thought the poster of the skier is referencing like a minotaur or something, where it's like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. There's that. It was the.
Oh, it's a
my
German
fa-
typewriter. It's a Holocaust symbol. What? Are you, what?
Yeah.
Really? Like, Jesus
My
Christ.
favorite one. My favorite one of the of that was the room numbers at 237. Yeah, 237.
Yeah.
And the reason that it's 237 is that the moon is it 237.
It's the mean distance between the Earth and the Moon, right? That's
Yeah. And it isn't. And it isn't. Apparently, that's like it just isn't. This guy's just like created an entire conspiracy theory.
And the carpet pattern like looks like the launching pad of
Exactly,
that they
yeah.
used. I was like,
And,
what?
It's just amazing, and, and it's funny. I mean, like that way of thinking is exactly how all conspiracy theories kind of blossom, isn't it? Like, you just look at something long enough, you can make it into what you want it to be. But I just find it so entertaining, and it was brilliant.
It was refreshing because conspiracy theories used to be entertaining. It used to be like there was a show, Coast to Coast Art Bell show that was like a tour mainstay, like because you would just listen to these folks that were and it was on AM. It was like AM radio, right? So you'd be like driving late at night wherever. You could find some AM station that had it, and you would hear these, in some cases, clearly very neurodivergent, I think is the nice way to put it. Folks opining their multitudes of theories about this, that, and the other. It was just a cool kind of like vaguely creepy thing to listen to when you're doing a night drive, like going to the hotel or whatever, crashing at someone's house. And I feel like people don't have that experience anymore because all these conspiracies are now mainstream and they're terrible. They're grandma's getting radicalized into, like, I don't even want to say the words because I might end up on a list or something of these just insane theories that like, it's like, so first of all, they're stupider. Secondly, they're just only used for like nonsense now, only used for, and like not in the way of like, again, it's fun to entertain the notion of like, how did you come to that conclusion in that Shining documentary, instead of being like, oh no, this is something that somebody's shooting up a pizza place or something because they've they've read online. Yeah. Thank you.
And apparently, so I watched, I listened to a podcast about conspiracy theories, and they were saying like they become more prevalent when people's emotional needs aren't being met.
Yes.
And obviously, over the last couple of years, people's emotional needs, particularly if you look at the lockdown, where no one's emotional needs are being met.
Right.
That's why they flourish. There's always got to be some blame. And because of that, and because of the, with like stuff like 9/11, it's happened.
Yeah.
And then, those theories come on afterwards. Though the difference between that and say what happened in the lockdown and all the anti-vaxxer stuff is that it was, the theory was an explanation to exactly what was happening to them right then and right now, and that's why they just people just wanted anything to get out of it, no matter how ridiculous it was, but yeah.
Well, just like in that same way, in the absence of justice, people will settle for catharsis.
Yeah, exactly.
In that same way, in the absence of actual explanations, people will, sink their body and soul into abject nonsense.
Exactly.
It feels right. It feels good to do it. Okay, well then sometimes that's all you have left.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is heady topic for song 7. But anyway,
Yeah, I mean, it's not even. It's just basically, yeah. I mean,
yeah, The Shining. Yeah, okay, cool.
The Shining is about not getting. Believe it or not, it's about this. Yeah, but it's about kind of not getting stuck in the past, not becoming a ghost.
Yeah,
just thinking about. I found like I was going to the pub and I was talking to my friends about the stuff that we used to do, and you know, I don't think that's a good place to be. You know, you obviously reminiscing is fine, but if you're just constantly doing that, you're not moving forward. And
it's a harsh toke, as they say.
Yes.
Apex
Right.
Spray. That's a
Great
nice one.
name.
I love it.
Yeah, well, I'm proud of that one. Apex Spray. It's just about growing up. Like it's about growing up. I think, you know, the line, "You count the blessings like was." I'd written that when I was like a teenager, I think, and it was about my dad who used to work away abroad, and it was about like missing him and coming back. And then in my 30s, it was kind of about my envy of other people's success and like why was that happening to them and not to me. And it took a kind of more spiteful tone. And then on this song, it's just about my son was I had to take my son to intensive care when he was born, just because he had a raised temperature. It was like really just precautionary. And then he had to stay in for like 7 days after he was born with my wife. And because of the lockdown, I could only see him for like 2 hours a day at visiting hours. So it kind of took that line and gave it another meaning. And so the song's about me getting older and growing up, and that line is kind of a perfect fit because that it has changed with me as I've, you know, different iterations of me. But then, you know, there's little bits of like, you know, I've learned a lot through that. But if I was to start again, I wouldn't change it because, you know, those experiences have shaped who I am. So
they made who you are. Yeah, you wouldn't be the man you are today without that. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
which is, you know, so sometimes that's easier to handle than others. Some days it's easier to handle that than others. You know?
Yeah, for sure. There are some times where you're like, I wish I hadn't have said that or done that. And but you know, you have to kind of, it's all just cumulative, isn't it? And you know, even the shit things are, if it hadn't been for the shit things, you wouldn't have the good things, I think.
It reminds me of like Mike Lee, like Naked and all that, how he's got, you know, these like the films were, especially Naked, where it's just like the guy's just a dreadful dude. Like he's just like the worst fella, right? And but you can,
I don't know who that is. Sorry, who are you talking about?
Mike Lee. There's a movie. Well, he's done a bunch of fun bunch of films, but the film Naked, it's got David. I don't remember how you say his name, but anyway, just like a film where the protagonist is just the worst dude.
Right. Okay.
Right, and like doing all the worst dude things, but like still there's like this deep humanity to it that like it's like, anyway, whatever. You know what? This isn't film talk. I got a movie show. We can talk about movies on that sometime if you want.
Yeah. Great.
But yeah, hard relatable for that. Anyway, that there's fighting talk. There's a visualizer. You call it a visualizer video? Is what does that mean? Was that?
I mean, it's just a fucking. I would say it's like a cartoon.
Yeah, I thought that was like you have to don some special goggles or something, and like something else happens.
Our drummer Pete is a graphic designer.
Yeah, it looks great. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, and he just like, I've done a visualizer, and so I was like, oh, I don't know what that means. So
it's good to say that makes two of us, brother. Yeah,
I don't know what that means. A visualizer. I mean, it visualizes the song.
Yeah. I'm visualizing looking that up so I can sound smart when I talk about it next.
Yeah, but I think he's just, you know, he's never done that before, which was kind of cool.
It looks amazing, and that's I think that's one of the more fascinating songs on the record too. That's very much it's
a curveball, right?
Yeah, like it's again, it operates that same space of like whatever bands like Brainiac and Six Finger Satellite and such do, but it's still like uniquely what you guys do as well. So tell me about that one. So other than me saying that I like that one, and there's a video that's a visualizer video for it.
Yeah, that was.
Maybe I can bring up an unrelated movie for that one too. Who knows?
That's it. I'm sure there's a reference in there. Let's have
Dare to Dream. Yeah.
So, this one is like it's a difficult one. This because it's the most challenging song on the album for me, anyway. And I think in terms of aesthetic, it's the one that I think that is the furthest. That and Midas are the two that are furthest removed from anything we've done before.
Yeah.
And so it was challenging in that regard. But like topically, it's about like it's tough. So I am like emotionally unstable. You know, I don't have a diagnosis or anything like that. I thought I was like depressed for years and years and years. But my wife, who's we've established as a mental health nurse, was like, "Mom, I don't think you're depressed. I think there's something else going on, and maybe you should look into like emotional instability and what that means." And so it's about, you know, being overwhelmed by, you know, things quite easily. I cry a lot, which I'm, you know, not embarrassed to say. Like I cry. I mean, here's the reference. I watched After Sun about 3 weeks and I had to bury my face under a pillow for about half an hour, so the people I'm living with at the moment couldn't hear me sobbing. But
devastating film. I mean, I adored it, but just devastating, right?
It was not the right film for me to be watching. It's just like, so yeah, and you know, and so I get overwhelmed by that type of stuff. I fucking cry when I hold my son all the time because it's just too much. But then, and previously, I've been a really fucking aggressive, nasty person when I feel overwhelmed by another man's violence or threat of violence. And that has led to me being in like physical confrontations, not as many as loads of people I grew up with, but enough to know that I don't like getting punched in the face, enough to know that
don't recommend it. Yeah.
It's the worst thing ever. It's the worst thing ever. But enough to know that, like, you know, I've enjoyed hurting people at times, and I've felt really bad, and I've always felt bad about it afterwards. But whenever,
well, it's socialized to be okay, or even like laudable in some cases. I feel like in recent years maybe that's changed, but I think like we kind of came in. You know, when I was growing up, it was still like things had not gotten evolved to the point where it was like, yeah, maybe don't be doing that.
No, and exactly. And I've never kind of like, I don't enjoy fighting, but there's certainly there have certainly been occasions where the person with whom I've had a physical confrontation deserved to be hurt. You know, I'm talking about, you know, someone who, you know, assaulted someone who was close to me, and not just in a physical way. So that's probably the only one I don't feel remorseful about. But ultimately, I'm doing it right now. Whenever we talk, whenever a conversation turns to the topic of violence, I fucking come alive and I talk about it, you know, because it's been present in my life.
Yeah.
And there's been things I've experienced, and I don't want that. That fucking would kill me if I saw those traits in my son. And the reason that I talk about those things, I realize that when I talk about violence, what I'm trying to say is, no one is going to make me feel helpless or fearless or fearful again, which is bullshit. It's total bullshit. It's just macho posturing. Of course I'm going to feel afraid. And, you know, and of course there are people out there who would kick the absolute fuck out of me. I just don't want that for my son. So this is that. It's about, and it's partly about not wanting him to grow up seeing me talk about violence, or him seeing me overreact to anything, like like a bus being cancelled, and I'll be fucking
right. And like setting the example of losing your mind over some mundane misery.
Exactly. And I do that because I'm overwhelmed by those things, and
sure,
but it's not acceptable. It just isn't acceptable to allow my emotions to affect other people's lives, or other people's moves, or other people's experiences of things.
Yes.
And that is a fucking really hard thing for me to do. And it's, I'm not there yet, but it's, it's a statement of intent. Like a lot of the album is a statement of intent. And this one is, the most important one, because he can't see me losing my shit, and he won't.
Very thoughtful.
It's fun. And and it's what that kind of really easygoing topic is set to a fucking background of techno.
It's a big robot rock energy. Yeah,
exactly, like a dance song. Why not? Those are completely aesthetically fucking opposed, disparate.
Sure.
Like, it's just ridiculous.
Why not? I mean, there's another it's for songs about clinical depression that have like hard banging riffs. It's doable. There's no rules there, brother. Last song on the record, "I Pray to Liars" is the name of the song.
So "I Pray to Liars" is it's a line. Do you know a writer called Jarrett Quebec? You heard of him?
Not familiar.
I've only read one of his books. It was I can't even think of the word, but my friend Ashley Tubby's in a band called Sugar Horse in the UK.
Oh yeah. Well, of course. My freaking I don't know Sugar Horse, but I know one of the guys in Sugar Horse, and have known him for forever. And I still need to like make that connect. I think I just need to see them play at some point. It doesn't quite make sense, but he's fantastic band. Yeah,
they're really great, and they're fucking really super heavy. But
you know what? I think I was meant to have them on too, and I said we were gonna do it, and I didn't do it.
You should get Ash on. Like he's a funny bastard. But he sent me a.
Jake's my guy. I've known Jake for like.
That's Jake. Yeah, he was in New Cowboy Builders, right?
And I've known him 15 years, something along those lines.
Wow.
He briefly played this band Pink City with Mike Noto from Coordinated Suicides that were really great too. Just top shelf guy, really.
Yeah, he's great. I love Jake. I love all those guys. Are really nice. Ash is like one of my best mates, and he sent me a copy. Bought me a copy of I Hate the Internet by Jarrett Quebec, which is it's kind of like
I'm already in with the title.
It's great.
I don't even know what it's about. But
it's not really about any. It's about the main. I suppose you could say the main character is like a woman called Adeline, I believe, and she basically commits the cardinal sin of like offending the comic book community by talking about plagiarism and how the founding fathers of like these comic books are having their legacy basically bastardized by the Marvel universe, and there's no credit to them and all this kind of stuff. So there's that.
Well, I mean, Batman is the perfect example of that. Like, and not to like let Marvel off the hook, but Jesus, there's that whole Bob Kane Batman thing.
I think that's referenced in it as well. Like,
that's the most egregious. Like,
it might even be that. It might even be Batman. I might be misremembering it, but I think there's a mention of Steve Ditko in there.
It was pretty it was an unfortunately commonplace. But yeah, like Bill Finger being like completely written out of Batman's history, like for the entirety of his lifetime, is probably the most.
Yeah,
egregious
I think
example.
it
Kirby
kinda-
got done wrong too. Anyway, whatever. I don't want to. I get it. Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, it's basically there we go, Scooby Doo. So it's kind of around that and her relationship with her son. But then there's also these like there's lots of these kind of little vignettes where you feel like the narrator is just kind of waxing lyrical about stuff that he hates, and I'm all about that. But there's a little bit in there where Adeline talks about how, instead of going to church, we pray to Google or whatever. We get all of our answers from Google, and she's like, Google are lying to you. Like they'll tell like they just, all they want you to do is to buy XYZ product. They're not, whenever you're looking for an answer, when you get that answer, that answer is given to you, but you have to pay for it by being subjected to advertising or something like that. And she just says like, I pray to liars, and I was like, that's fucking brilliant.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, the old saying is, if you're not paying for the product, you are the product. Right?
Exactly, yeah. And so yeah, I pray to liars. Like what it's actually about is kind of again like a coming of age, a growing up, is realizing how what we've just touched upon quite a bit about like mental health and pessimism and all that, and how that is marketed within heavy music in particular.
Yes,
it's marketed and dressed up and aimed at children like it's something to be aspired to, like the only art that is of worth is the art that's being made by the tortured creator, and it's fucking disgusting. And so, the album as a whole is about my son and the example that I want to set to him and yada, yada, yada. But, there's also another element to that is, I want younger musicians even if it's just fucking 10 people, 10 kids who want to be musicians and hear this album and want to make heavy music.
Yeah.
You can see that, like, you don't have to be a broken human being to be able to create meaningful art, or art that you're proud of, that can connect people. Not to say like, I'm not trying to be fucking idols or anything like that, and it's all positivity. This does address some negative stuff about me and my past and what have you, but it's not done so in a way where I'm glorifying it, or I'm trying to romanticize it, or make it in any way, shape or form a desirable thing. And that's it. This just it was just that. Yeah, it's something that I've thought about for a long time, and it still happens. Like, you still see the fucking shitbags who are acting like total pricks, sexist bastards, and the rest of it, acting like they're rock stars, getting loads and loads of column inches. Like, it's fucking mad that it's still being perpetuated. There's a publication over here that have an award named after something that fucking Robert Plant said, and it's like, this is guys in a band that are renowned for mistreating women, renowned for it,
baked into the identity practically. Yeah,
it's like, so we're just teaching these kids that's something to be aspired to, and it's just not, and you can look up to these people musically, it's fine. I think James Brown is the most important recording artist of all time.
Yep.
But name fucking award after him because he's a right bastard.
Yeah, he also beat women, just like John Lennon.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, he was exactly it. Yeah, he was a super duper fucking not a nice guy. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, one rant. I've gone on one of those rants that I wasn't going to go on to.
No, I appreciate that, because it's almost like there is, especially in noisy, heavy music, whatever, there's almost fetishization of grimness and complete pessimism, like almost like elegetically, where it's like, why are you celebrating that? That's not anything. That's not anything to celebrate, man. Like, yeah, the world sucks doesn't mean you need to like exclusively like be yelling. It's always yelling, by the way, about it. I mean, like, or there's ways to do it that's an artful way, and there's ways that's just catharsis. It's like at a certain point, well, what makes you different from new metal then? I don't know.
Exactly.
That's a larger conversation and a different show. But no, I appreciate that. I think it's good. I think that's a good. I think that's a good closer for the record as well. Of course, we're talking about Galore. Let me see if I can throw this up there. There we go. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice?
But that's very quickly. That's the reason the album looks like that. Is, as I mentioned earlier,
the launch pad for the Apollo mission, right? Exactly.
Room 237, and
sorry, I couldn't.
And also, if it's no, it's a lot of the album, is based on, influenced by that Soul Wax album, the Night Versions album, and this is kind of that refused shape of punk to come, where it's
you got the big word, like it's a whole
knowing nod to like an album that massively influenced this one. So
yeah, it's a great one. That's and of course
that's just get a graphic designer in your band. That's the way to do it,
So TSPSI Bandcamp.com for that. I'll put in the show notes. You got some bundles and stuff, some of which are sold out, as we pointed out.
I don't believe that's true, but keep buying them.
Just keep it on there anyway. At the time of this recording, it's later this week because it's the 16th now, and it's the 21st where it's actually released on all the various things. But it's Ripper, man. It's good.
Thank you.
Stoked to have you on. Like I said, I'll put it on the show. Wow. The change in view on that is like blowing my mind right now. So what Snake Invasion stuff's coming up, man? I think it looks like you got like a bunch of stuff on deck for getting it out in the world. You got like a really cool like release show coming. You got some other shows coming in all over the UK. Looks like to me.
Yeah, we got a couple of weekends back to back, I think, and then we've got a couple of shows in the Netherlands in the summer, a few festivals, and then hopefully I am going to come back over with McCluskey in the summer, and we've finished what we fucking started, Conan.
That, I mean, a lot of people are going to be very curious. and I don't want to, it's
fine. We can talk about it.
Like it's a bummer. It's you got some in, they're great, and stuff happens. Hearing, as it turns out, very important for playing music. Who knew?
Yeah. It was fucking. Yeah, it was pretty. A pretty emotionally charged time that for all of us, but I feel like he's got some help with it. I think he's just done a rehearsal yesterday with Jack. That seemed to have gone well.
Excellent.
The three of us are going to rehearse for the first time next Friday.
Fantastic news.
It's good. So I think it's possible. It's just now finding when do we all have 3 weeks to go out there?
Yeah, and go hit it, and especially because I don't know, something I noticed now is like with like everybody back to touring suddenly, like it's things are filling up even quicker than they used to be.
Oh man, yeah,
it kind of blows my mind, frankly.
It's mental. We can't. We're trying to get St Pierre are trying to get some shows for the EU at the end of the year. It's not happening. It's just not happening. So it's probably going to be next year.
It's along with like vinyl delays, which look like they're finally kind of normalizing too. It's sort of my friend Hoshi, who plays she plays drums in Helms Ali. And there's this brilliant documentary about touring. Spoiler alert, I'm in it, but that's not why you should watch it.
Yeah.
But she talks about, prove it tours and things like that. And I think the entire world, if you are in this world of music, the past few years have been prove it years. It's like, oh, you want to do this, huh? Prove it.
Yeah.
And that's
yeah, absolutely. I think it's funnily enough, the first time I heard the term lifer was Falco. Like Falco referred to me once out of the blue. He's like, you know a lifer when you meet one. He's like, you're definitely a lifer. And I was like, what do you mean? And like, when he's just stuff, and I was like, oh, yeah. And yeah, there's even like the last couple of years have been like, oh, dude, could I? Because it has been tough. You're absolutely right. But then, what else would you do?
Well, exactly, but you're built that way, right? And there's people. I know people that were brilliant at it, and they just stopped. And they seem to be. They're fine. They're fine with it. They don't miss it. And I'm like, wow, what does that feel like? That's crazy.
That'd be amazing. That would be imagine just being able to go, no more ideas.
Yeah.
No, like nothing coming in.
Yeah.
Nothing I have to like carry around for months.
There's nothing scratching at my brain on a daily
Exactly,
basis.
yeah.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. How lovely for you.
Yeah. I'm trying to like get into like photography and stuff like that. I've just become like a little mobile phone photography. Yes, the game of getting
the technology has come along so well that I feel like that's definitely like, I know people that are professional photographers that maybe wouldn't feel that way, but like it's been democratized, right? It's real easy to like take an incredible photo on your phone. Fantastic. And like in resolutions you couldn't imagine of without like a $2,000 camera back in the day.
I know, it's crazy. The quality of them is crazy. I do still think like, yeah, you can definitely, even me, like untrained, you can tell they look good, but there's just something about an actual camera with an actual sensor and a beautiful bit of glass. You can,
Always.
You can tell. I mean, it's no different to like, you can tell between a plug-in and a really nice warmed up valve amp, in a room mic'd up well.
It's true. There is a difference. Before I let you go, I've had Falco on this bloody show so many times. At one point, I said he's practically a co-host. But we all love Falco. The conversations are, they go many different directions. I know the story, but I don't think the story of how you come to play with McCluskey has been told in depth and in detail on this show that I'm aware of. Would you mind summarizing that up? Because I have gone on record. I don't know if I've gone on record on this show. I think this is the best version of the band.
Well, that's very kind of you to say, sir.
It's also correct.
You said that. You said that in Seattle. You said that on stage in Seattle, and I tapped Falco on the shoulder. I was like, "You're welcome."
So I'm consistent in my messaging, at least. But I no BS. Like, I mean, I've seen multiple iterations in this. This is the best version.
I've seen them all as well. I've seen every version of them, which I suppose is a segue, I guess, into how, my explanation of how that happened. So, yeah, they were my favorite band when I was 18. I was living in a little seaside town, went into the only shop within literally 20 or 30 miles that had guitar strings for my guitar. Went in, they were playing McCluskey Do Dallas, and I was like, what is this? Why is this? Bought the CD. I don't think I bought it then. I think I waited a couple of weeks. I was skint. And then just fell in love with the album. Yeah. And I must have been 18, 2002. I would have been 18. So fell in love with that. And the more and more I listened to it, the more and more I realized that, like, this is the type of music I want to be making. Like, like so much personality and it's completely different to everything that was popular at the time. And so I moved from South Wales to North Wales when I was 20 to join a band. Was up there all the while. McCluskey is just kind of like growing and growing in my psyche and everything. And then I decided to move to Bristol to start a band that were kind of inspired by McCluskey. The band I was in up there were kind of not anywhere near that. It was more kind of Green Day and stuff, which was not my choice, but it was, a band and I loved it and it served me well. But I moved to Bristol, started this band, wrote a song in which I talk about. I wrote a song called "Say No to Stop Motion," where the last, I suppose, the outro is that you should be listening to Elvis Presley, you should be listening to the Sonics and the Doors, you should be listening to Billie Holiday, you should be listening to Faith No More, you should be listening to Robert Johnson, you should be listening to the Cramps and Phantomus, you should be listening to Shellac and McCluskey, you should be listening to Death from Above, you should be listening to The Fall. So I basically just wrote that,
rattle them off. Yeah,
just basically just mouthed off all of these bands that I was saying, like, instead of just listening to this shitty metal you're listening to, listen to all this very rich tapestry of art. And then through that, someone told Jimmy Watkins, who was Future Left guitarist at the time, he came to see us, saw us, thought we were great. And then they just, Future Left booked us for a support. We played one show. I fucking sung that lyric in front of Falco like a dickhead. Yeah. And then, you know, we spoke afterwards, and, you know, he was at that point, and still is, you know, probably the biggest, well, he definitely has had the biggest influence on my music. And he told me that he liked my music, which at that time for me was like, fucking, that's, you know,
yeah.
This is success. This is what success feels like.
Absolutely.
And then we went on tour with him. We got on really well. And then I was sat in work one day and I just got a text from him. And he was like, we're going to do a McCluskey show. Would you mind singing John Chappell's parts? And I just like stood up in work. It was like, what the fuck is...
Right.
What the fuck is going on, man?
That's that moment. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, so me, Dev, the bassist in Idols, is like one of my closest friends. And we're both huge McCluskey fans.
Yeah.
And I just like screenshotted it and sent it to him, and he was like, just called me straight away. He was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
And then so we did that. Julia was playing bass, and then obviously Julia fell pregnant and had Ella. And Falco was like, hey, do you want to do a show where you play bass? Can you play bass? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And then we did it. And then it kind of, not this, you know, I love Julia. Mm-hmm. She's amazing. She's an amazing musician, beautiful human being. But it just kind of, when I started playing bass and singing, it was different to how when we were doing it with the four. It just felt a little bit different, and there's just something happened, and then it was just kind of, yeah, this is actually really good. This is really good.
Yeah, because I got to see them do. It wasn't with us, but like one of the last times Future to the Left played the U.S., they snuck a couple of McCluskey songs. They didn't sneak it in. They put them in like normal people, but like I was like surprised, like pleasantly surprised, and you know Julie did a cracking job, obviously, but like it definitely it had the feel of like, oh, we're doing like this thing. It wasn't like, oh, we're out for blood with this thing, right? And it was. I mean, Julie's a killer bass player. I mean, that's she's
I've
awesome.
never seen her make a mistake. Never seen her once make a mistake.
Like, I remember, you know, I remember being like what? Oh my god! Like I can't believe that there's gonna have a different bass player. I can't even imagine that band without it. And then like the first time like I heard, was it the plot, right? And I was like, oh, it's fine. And then I got to see him live. I was like, oh man, I actually kind of, in a way, it's almost better. Like it's like, you know, it hits different.
Bass sound is ridiculous.
Yeah, she's so good. I mean,
that rig the rig that we use to go out for McCluskey is entirely hers.
Oh really?
Like,
that's awesome.
Entirely hers. Like, and it's just you just stand in front of it. It's just
and she would have that killer record herself.
The
some
one,
years back.
Yeah, that's called This Becomes Us. I think. So it was like me. I did a song on that, and then
Frank Black's on it.
Black. What's his name from 80s Matchbox? Being like Guy something. I can't remember. There's a few. Yeah.
Anyway, Julia's great. I think I actually offered to have her on the show and never followed up on that. Do you notice a theme, by the way? This is what happens when it's a one-man operation of a guy that does a bunch of other things.
I mean, look, mate, you've interviewed hundreds of people, so fair enough. Like, that's more than I'd be able to muster. I'd be like,
sometimes I forget. But anyway, so you're doing it. It's killing. You know, and I remember when these were like one-off kind of. This is for charity. Yeah. This is for like this place. We're doing a thing. And then, so how's it turn to like, oh no, what's this? Let's do this thing.
It kind of, Falco at the beginning was because of obviously well documented falling out that him and John had, that he kind of felt a little bit, he didn't feel comfortable making money from it because John was such a big part of it. And, you know, he was like, you know,
sure,
like it's
absolutely.
like those albums, his voice and his mannerisms and his witticisms are a massive flavor of those albums, you know. But, you know, those two don't speak anymore. So, but he was still kind of like, well, I don't feel at ease making money from it. And I just said to him, like, well, look, man, you know, you've done this struggling artist thing for forever. Like, just fucking, you've not, excuse me, you've made an album, made two or three albums, one of which has found a home with thousands of people and is a very important album. Not just the people who listen to it and enjoy it, but the people who try and emulate it and it's you know,
yes,
like, you know, is it like the amount, like, you know, the amount of music that you've influenced, you know, for example, Idols wouldn't I'm telling you right now, like, not just from like, you know, I'm telling you firsthand, like, that Idols would not exist.
Wouldn't exist. They should practically play royalties. You know.
Yeah, and like that. And, you know,
peace and love in my heart as I say that. You know.
Well, you know, this is the truth. Like Dev, as I mentioned, their bassist is one of my closest friends, and we have a band called the Plain Views, which is basically just a rip off of McCluskey. Shellac, and that happened. It was intended to be so. That's how much. That's how much of an influence that album has had. It's influenced one of the biggest bands in the world at the moment, like arguably, but one of the biggest alt rock bands in the world. So I was saying to him, like, you fucking, no one's going to begrudge you. You're not going to lose any kind of cult hero credit for getting paid, mate. Like, just enjoy it. Like, you know, you're 40. He was 40 at the time, or 39 maybe. Like, just fucking enjoy it. And so we did a few festival shows, and then
start off with the asterisks, right? And then
asterisks, which I was fine with, you know. Yeah. It's Falco, of course, is an asterisk.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
You know, but and then, you know,
I thought that was brilliant. I mean, but of course I did. I'm the freaking target audience for that. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that's great. You know.
Yeah, it's funny, and then it was just kind of, it just picked up from there. We all enjoyed doing it. We all felt like, even though they're not songs that I wrote, they feel like they're my songs because of how long they've been in my life and how much of an influence they've had on me anyway. And then it's just grown and grown, and you know, it was like, oh, should we do we've been offered an Australia tour, what do you think? I was like, of course.
Yes.
And like,
the answer was yes.
Should we tour the States? And I'm, well, yeah. Yeah.
Sounds all right. Yeah.
Like, he's like, you know, it's really expensive to do it. It's like, well, I will do it for free. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'll genuinely do it for free. I've never played in America, or States, sorry. And I need to do that. And I'm going to do it in my favorite band of all time. I'll do it for free. If it means that you guys can get paid, and we do it, I'll do it for free. I couldn't give a shit. Like, you know, and you know, obviously that was a while ago. Now he's like, you're doing it for free, right? It's like, absolutely not, man. It's split 3 ways, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that ship has sailed, son.
Yeah, I was like, I almost, I would have said that 30. Yeah, no.
Yeah. No, it's
Yeah.
Good on you. Good on you.
Yeah. And so yeah. And then we toured. We did the tour. Toured Australia. It was incredible. We did, and then we came over and did those 4 dates that were meant to be 5, and it was genuinely the best. That they were all great. The LA show in particular was just my first show in the States. Was like pretty overwhelming.
Yeah, that's a nice start. Yeah.
It was just we talk about being lifers, and if you're a lifer, you're doing this for reasons other than fiscal gain. I mean, it's not paying my bills, but those moments like that, experiences like that, is like my entire life. All of the choices that I've made have led me to this moment. And this girl got up afterwards and like on stage when I was knackered, and like she was holding my hands, and then she jumped up on stage, just gave me a hug and said, "We love you." And like, just like, that's fucking beautiful. Like, it's absolutely beautiful. And music might not pay my bills, but that'll cleanse my soul and soothe my soul forever. And and all of that is because of this band that that
Well said.
I happened upon by chance 20 odd years ago. It's insane, man. Yeah.
I love it. And like I said, and I am a position of some authority, some might say expert. I think it's the best version of the band. Flat out.
Oh, that's really good. I really appreciate that. And hopefully we'll see. I think we need to make an album.
I think that would be a great idea, and I think it would yield some cool results.
I hope
For sure.
so. I hope so. There's part of me, there's the snobby purist, which is like, fucking leave that alone.
Remember when the Stooges made that the Weirdness record, which is like, all right, good for you guys.
Yeah, it's not. And there aren't that many bands. I can't, off the top of my head. You're probably got a way better knowledge than I have. I can't think of many bands that have gone away for longer than 4 or 5 years and have come back and made something as good as the canon. But
I can give a few, but this isn't trivia. So I mean, it's more rare that happens than not. It's usually like, all right, good for you, or like maybe there's like one song that's like hard banger, and the other ones are fine. It's fine, and it's fine is, I guess, better than bad, right?
Exactly. And so a part of me is kind of like, I don't want to be part of the iteration of this band that sullies.
Right. Oh yeah, it's all great except for that one that reunion record.
They got that big ginger dickhead in, and they ruined it with terrible songs. But then the selfish part of me is thinking, well, I want to go to Chicago and record an album with Steve Albini in mclusky. And you know what? Fuck everyone. Let's just do that. And I kind of think that the other two are of that mindset as well. So if we piss all over the glory of mclusky, I'm sorry, I'll be having a great time. So
look,
and that's my mind.
And I can tell you this. I premiered the first Christian Fitness song. It was so early, he was still calling it Tremendous Fence, by the way. I like to point out that little tidbit. But if you listen to those records, I mean, I think that there's look, it's there. It's all there. And granted, it would be different if it was mclusky, right? But like, it's all like, it's not any less vital. And that's, I mean, I understand that, in this reunion industrial complex world that we live in, that it can be easy to like adopt a cynical viewpoint. Also, who cares?
Exactly.
And it's for who it's for. Great. If you don't want it, great. Then don't buy it. Don't listen to it. Whatever. Who cares?
And, even at like Jack is I think Jack is 2 or 3 years older than me, maybe.
Yeah.
And I think Falco is 9 years, almost. We're all like, the weird thing McCluskey trivia. So Jack, myself, and Falco, our birthdays are within 10 days of each other.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, I think Jack's the 26th of March. I'm the 28th of March, and Falco is the 5th of April. So it's all like really close together. We've never done a joint one. It's funny, but I've lost what I was going to say then.
But there's an age difference between. I mean, Falco's closer
yeah.
age to me. Like I'm older than you are. You know.
Exactly,
and I feel it every day.
His mindset, the way he's looking at it is exactly the same as I am, which is that, you know, success for me as a musician is about the experiences that I'm going to have now, and the memories that I can create. And even though he's 9 years older than me, he's thinking exactly the same about it. So what if some people think it's shit? So what if people don't like it? It means that the three of us who like love each other and get on really well get to go out and do something that we'll be able to talk to our kids about in, you know, 10 or 15 years. And as an example to say, like, you know, fucking just keep doing it. Just keep going.
Yes.
You know?
No, and that's I think that's the way to handle it too. And you can't look, if you spend your time trying to please everybody, you're going to please no one, including yourself.
Exactly.
So, Damien, this has been so great, dude.
A pleasure.
New record, so awesome. I'll link to it in the show notes for anyone curious to check it out. Thank you so much for talking to me about it. Last thing, this is the only canned question I ever ask on the show. Choose to interpret it however you like. Why do you do what you do?
I do. Oh, what's it? I think, and I'm not sure who the composer is, right? And I'm not comparing myself to a composer, right? But I read somewhere, and I've looked since to see who this was, but I read it in a book somewhere, and I think it was something like, it was either like Bach or like Beethoven, and there's an inside me that just has to come out, like, and I know that sounds really pretentious. I think he was talking more about, like, you know, his heart and all that. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's just ideas. Like I get the ideas and they drive me fucking mental until I've actualized them.
Right.
And then that process just makes me feel alive, you know, and going out on the road and doing it and having one or two people who, you know, might really invest in it or take something from it is the most beautiful feeling in the world. Like, it's the beyond, other than, you know, getting married and watching my son being born, having someone come up to you, a stranger, tell you that they've taken something from something you've written or a piece of music is beautiful. Like, it's, you know, like, to me, it shows that there are people out there. It makes me feel like I'm not the only one, you know. And I think a lot of musicians have that sense of being this little weirdo, but, you know, really those connections, no matter how slight they are or how infrequent they are, they mean a lot. And that's why I do.
Brilliant. It's been such a pleasure, man. Thanks so much for taking the time.
No, you take care of yourself, and hopefully I will see you in a couple of months.
I would love that.
Yeah, me too.
All right, brother. Take care. Congratulations on the awesome record.
Thank you. Take care, buddy.
All right, take care. There he goes. Let's hear something from this awesome record. Let's hear That There's Fighting Talk.
Talk about violence too much, hands in
Right. There you go. There's Fighting Talk, St Pierre Snake Invasion off of Galore. Go get that. tspsi.bandcamp.com. It's great. I think it's a great record. You can get that and all your other streaming things that are not Bandcamp later this week. Or maybe it's already, depending when you're listening to it. I don't know. It's a jammer, though. Hey, that was Damien. What an awesome time that was. He is an awesome dude, and I really appreciated that. I am going to be doing another show this week with the Boys of Elephant Rifle, so tune in for that coming up. Bunch of Caterwaul bands coming on this month. The name of the show, of course, is Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal. Thank you so much for listening to it. This show airs normally Thursdays, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 6 Mountain, 5 Pacific. Streaming to YouTube, Twitch, all that stuff.
Mr. and Mrs. America, and all the ships at sea.
Archive's always free, protonicreversal.com. No ads, no sponsors, no kidding. But if you like the show and want to get episodes sooner, $1 a month at patreon.com/protonicreversal will achieve that very, very, very achievable goal. Thanks to everyone sharing the episodes around, liking, subscribing, posting reviews. All that helps beat back the mighty algorithmic overlords. And it's just a darn nice thing to do. So thank you for doing it.
Turn sound into electricity.
Lots of good stuff coming up.
Can you hear me now?
Stay safe out there.
Out on Route 128.
And take it
dark
easy.
And lonely. I got my radio on. Can you hear me now? 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 See in the radio. And that snare drum and that drum roll means we've got a winner. If you're the fifth caller, or any caller at all, welcome to my top 10. I'd like to thank our sponsor. But we haven't got a sponsor. Not if you were the last man on earth. She was prepared to prove it. This one goes out to a special girl. But there is no special girl. It's the end of radio. The last announcer plays the last record. The last what? Leaves the transmitter. Circles the globe in search of a listener. Is it really broadcasting if there's no one there to receive? It's the end of radio. As we come to the close of our broadcast day, got my radio on. Can you hear me now? This is a test! If this had been a real emergency,